4 minutes. That's all the time U.S. Airways Flight 1549 had between routine takeoff and potential disaster. The Airbus A320 had barely left LaGuardia when a flock of geese ripped into its engines, turning them into lifeless metal shells. At 3,000 feet, the city of New York stretched beneath the wings, millions of lives below, 155 lives aboard. Every second that passed brought the jet closer to catastrophe, and every second demanded a decision that could change everything. On January 15th, 2009, LaGuardia Airport was its usual winter self. Gray skies, a stiff wind, and a stream of impatient travelers moving toward their gates. Among them were the 150 passengers and 5 crew members of U.S. Airways Flight 1549, an Airbus A320 bound for Charlotte, North Carolina. It was supposed to be a short, uneventful flight, barely 2 hours from pushback to touchdown. First Officer Jeff Skiles, newly trained on the Airbus but a veteran pilot, was at the controls. Captain Chesley Sully Sullenberger occupied the left seat. For the 2 pilots, this was going to be another routine day at the office. At 3:25 p.m., the A320 accelerated down runway 4, lifting smoothly into the winter blue sky. Passengers settled in, some with laptops, others peering out over the frozen city. Then, less than 3 minutes later, a sudden blur of movement appeared ahead. A flock of Canada geese, each weighing nearly 10 pounds, smashed into the aircraft. The impacts were loud, wet, and metallic. Both engines surged, then fell silent. The cockpit became eerily quiet except for the rush of air over the fuselage. Sullenberger firmly took control from Skiles without hesitation. The screens lit up with the rarest and most unforgiving of alerts: dual engine failure. The captain's mind raced through the possibilities. Returning to LaGuardia meant executing an aggressive turn back with no thrust and little altitude. Teterboro Airport in New Jersey was an option, but only if the glide could be sustained. Air traffic control asked the inevitable question.
Act is 1529. We can get it for you. Do you want to try to land 1013?
491. We may end up in the Hudson.
That sentence, captured on the cockpit voice recorder, marked the point when survival became less about reaching an airport and more about finding a place to land. Any place. The Airbus descended rapidly, losing about 1,000 feet per minute. In the cabin, the realization was dawning on passengers. The engines were dead. The climb had stopped. Flight attendant Doreen Welsh shouted the brace command over and over. Sullenberger later described his thinking in those seconds. I had to make sure the nose was low enough to maintain speed and avoid a stall, but not so low that we'd hit too hard. It was all about energy management every second. Lining up with the Hudson River, he avoided the George Washington Bridge and ferry traffic below. At 3:31 p.m., just 208 seconds after the bird strike, the A320 touched the river with a controlled but jarring impact. A sheet of icy water sprayed over the windows as the fuselage bounced and settled. In the cockpit, Sullenberger keyed the PA and told the passengers to evacuate. On the wings, passengers crowded together, their breath turning to mist in the freezing air. Some leapt into the 2°C water, others clung to the fuselage as ferries and rescue boats converged. When he said brace for impact, I advanced into a zone beyond fear. You resign yourself to the fact that, you're probably gonna die. I thought about my wife. I thought about my children. You just feel like, wow, this has been a short life. Within 24 minutes, every one of the 155 passengers and crew was safely off the aircraft. Not a single life was lost, a survival rate of 100%. The media immediately dubbed it the miracle on the Hudson. But the NTSB, tasked with dissecting the event, found nothing supernatural about it. Both engines had indeed ingested multiple geese at high speed, shredding the fans beyond recovery. In simulator runs, most pilots attempting to turn back to LaGuardia failed unless they began the maneuver instantly without diagnosis or checklist review, as the NTSB report later stated that the captain's decision to land on the Hudson River provided the highest probability of survival for everyone aboard. For Sullenberger, the accolades were flattering but secondary. The events of January 15th serve as a reminder to us all of the daily devotion to duty of the many thousands of aviation professionals who keep air travel safe. Lives were saved due to the combination of a very experienced, well-trained crew, First Officer Jeff Skiles, and Flight Attendants Donna Dent, Doreen Welsh, and Sheila Dale, all of whom acted in a remarkable display of teamwork, along with expert air traffic controllers, the orderly cooperation of our cool-headed passengers, and the quick and determined actions of the professional and volunteer first responders in New York City. First Officer Skiles, often overlooked in public accounts, later reflected, "People have asked me, were you scared? A pilot in general is not in this situation. So, sure, there was a shock, the engines have failed. But then there's things you have to do. In my case, I knew I had to grab what we call the QRH, the Quick Reference Handbook, which is essentially a checklist." In the aftermath, the aircraft was recovered largely intact and later placed on display in a museum. It became both a symbol of professionalism under pressure and a case study in aviation safety. The A320's flight path, decisions, and crew performance are now taught in pilot training programs worldwide. The event also spurred discussions about bird strike hazards and emergency preparedness. For the passengers, the day lived on in quieter, more personal ways. Some spoke about renewed priorities, others about sleepless nights. "I'm such a lucky person. I realize that I've gotten a second chance on life. Let me tell you, there are so many dark moments. Really, really dark moments that, you can't even share with other people because nobody can understand." In the end, Flight 1549 was more than a dramatic survival story. It was proof that in aviation, heroism is rarely about instinct alone. It's about preparation, precision, and the calm to apply both when the stakes are life or death. As Sullenberger himself put it, "The flight was completely unremarkable for the first 100 seconds. I saw the birds a few seconds ahead of time. I could feel and hear the thuds as we struck them. I could feel terrible vibrations I never felt before in an airplane. My first three thoughts were, this can't be happening, this doesn't happen to me. And unlike all the other flights, this one probably would not end on a runway.